Namaskar, Vanakkam. In the previous, I had asked Shiv a question. What is the reason behind reciting the attributes and greatnesses of the different forms of the divine? So let's hear from Shiv. What is the reason behind reciting the attributes and greatnesses?
Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Whenever we invite someone home or we invite a chief guest or a VIP, there'll be a lot of suspense, and the person in charge will generally introduce the VIP. It's not that the VIP just comes on stage and everyone is wondering who. Before releasing any movie, you have a trailer. The trailer captures all your attention and get all, active about it. And you really want to watch the movie. And you'll be like, have you seen the trailer? Whenever we talk about the divine, or you meet someone and you come back and talk about them, you talk about your experience, you describe your experience. Supposing you go to Kailash Mansarovar, supposing you go for bungee jumping, supposing you go for paragliding, you talk about the experience so that the person to whom you are speaking may also be inspired to do the same. So, on the same line, Sanatan Dharma is all about inspiring ourselves and inspiring others also, because it's always about us. It's not only about me. So, when we describe the attributes of the divine, if we take the Divine Mother in the form of Lalita Sahasranamam, you have a particular set of Jnana Shlokam. In the Vishnu Sahasranamam, you have it. In the Shiva Sahasranamam, you have it. Same way, when we meditate on Sri Ganesha, as we saw in the last episode with an elephant head, the big belly, and with a mouse as a Vahan. So immediately, those attributes, the idea is they should start seeping into our heart and we should start practicing them. Now, most doctors are agreeing that you become what you think, or whatever you see, whatever you are regularly reading, etc. So, when we describe the attributes of the divine in this particular way, that tattva of Ganesha, the main idea is it should be activated within us, that we should accept all as they are, that we should listen more, we should have a good communication. We should be able to have the attribute of Ganesha that for Lokakshema, for something good, he broke his one tusk and wrote a kavya, which we have in the form of Mahabharata. So, for some good purpose, it would be necessary to make certain adjustments in our life. So, those attributes are supposed to come in us and we are supposed to practice it. Just like sugar gets dissolved in hot milk, the more and more we delve on these attributes, those tattvas come into us. And the power of sound, all scientists are speaking about now, that the kind of sound you are exposed to affects you physically, mentally, spiritually. Mantras are something, the meaning mantra itself means that which protects through the mind. So when we chant these powerful vibrations, say in the case Ganesha Pancharatna, we are making the sound molecules around us, all the atmosphere around us in such a way that we start radiating that particular tattva. So you can say it's a mixture of science and goodwill of everyone.
The power of sound, the power of thought, and the power of action, all coming together. We would like to hear, Shankarji, your take on this. How and by what mechanism is the reciting of the goodness of the divine supposed to bring goodness to the lives of humans? For example, if I am reciting the mantra which says, Samasta lokeshankaram nirasta daitya kunjaram dare tarodaram varam vare bhavaktramaksharam kripakaram kshmakaram mudakaram yashaskaram manaskaram namaskritam namaskaromi bhaswaram. So meaning that I'm asking for all those things: kripakaram, kshmakaram, mudakaram, happiness, yashaskaram, yash, manaskaram. So when I'm speaking of all these attributes of Ganapati, what all powers Ganapati has or is supposed to have, how does reciting this lead me to that path? if Shankarji would like to say something on this.
Okay. See, basically, our concepts and our philosophies believe in the power of the mind. And the power of the mind, how we channelize it, is through a simple process in our ritualistic process, which is called the sankalpa. A sankalpa is nothing but just making up the mind to focus on what is it that you want, or what is it that you want to get to. For example, you are in point A, you want to go to point B, that is a sankalpa. Now, many a time in life, we flit from 1 point to 2 points to 3 points, and we are never focused on anything, which is why we never achieve anything. But if you stay focused on one sankalpa, it will ultimately express and stand in front of you in a manifest form. It has no other scope but to come in front of you in a manifest form. That is the rule of our philosophy, that the cosmos, because of its consciousness, which again, with Shiv, we have a nice argument on that consciousness doesn't even know it is conscious. So that is a side argument we have. But that consciousness is bound by this rule that it has to manifest. That is why people go into dhyana and meditation. That gives you even higher levels of manifestation. I mean, if ordinary human beings can, through sankalpa, achieve something, imagine what you can achieve if you can go into very deep meditation on that same sankalpa. So that is the main reason why all these things have a sound vibration, and also the how shall I put it? The attributes which are very physical in nature, so that your mind can comprehend something. Instead of saying air, which you never see, maximum you can feel it. But if I define a god, a Vayu, and tell him that he looks like this, and he's resplendent like this, and he's in 8 directions or 10 directions or infinite directions, and he blows hot and he blows cold, and he can do this and he can do that, and he has a son called Hanuman who's got all these kind of attributes, then I can look at something, and when I ask him for something, I know what I am connecting with in my mind, because it's a very weak mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why we have all these things. These are all just aids, tools. For a handicapped person, you give a crutch. These are those kind of things.
So these are the tools that help us to look within us by imagining things outside us.
Exactly.
So we create imaginations, we create stories, and we make them so beautiful. And this also becomes part of literature, because this is beautiful poetry, this is beautiful literature, and this is a great creative imagination. And
see,
all
the
of this
literature and
leads
poetry will happen because it inspires you.
Inspires you. Yeah.
See, when Adi Shankara sits and writes something on this, it is because he is inspired.
Yeah.
It is not that it is some secret that he is drawing out of the universe and giving it to you. He has experienced something, he is inspired by that, and it is that consciousness which is speaking through him. It is not that he, Shankaracharya, is sitting and speaking. When you experience it, that consciousness just speaks. And the beauty is the consciousness is still not aware that it is doing it. That is the beauty of the consciousness also.
The consciousness is not conscious.
Yes, it's not conscious of itself. It's not conscious of itself.
Yeah. So one last question, which I will shoot to Shiv as well as to Shankarji. First, Shiv can answer. How does the idea of Ganesha, for example, this idea of Ganesha, imagining Ganesha, for that matter, the idea of any form of divine, how does it reverberate with the new age youth in the modern world? How do they understand it? How do they accept it? That there is a Ganapati. He's a big trunk. He rides a mouse, which indicates a small ego as well as the breaker of obstacles. So we have created a thought, an imagination of the divine form, one of the divine forms, to help us. How does it reverberate with the youth, with the younger generation? Does it reverberate as music or poetry? Does it reverberate as emotion or inspiration? Does it reverberate as something that takes you to search within yourself by imagining what is good outside of you? What is your thought on how the youth is inspired or could be or should be inspired by the thought of the Ganesha personality?
There's a very beautiful saying that says, Yat bhavam tat bhavati. The way you look at it, that manifests. Ganesha, in fact, is the most perfect, cool dude who each youth can look up to. Whether it is in today's times, it is very important, as Shankarji said, to have a goal and to go about achieving it. When the task was given that you have to go around the universe 3 times, it is a way you see things and you get about accomplishing. That is why he is known as Mangalamurti, because he went about accomplishing it in the swiftest possible way, yet legitimate way. This was not a wrong way that he adopted. It was just a way of seeing. So in today's times, it becomes even more pertinent to go behind correct, appropriate goals. Here, the goal was going around the universe, which is the primordial couple, the parents itself. And this also brings in a very important concept today, that we can never let go of the duties as a son or as a daughter, though age may not be a factor. So this is another thing that Ganesha teaches. And Ganesha is someone who is always going to fill you with fun. The moment you see Lord Ganesha or you see his painting, and an interesting thing is you can paint Ganesha however. There are no hard and fast rules. Like you can paint him like this, you can paint him however. So the flexibility, the easy availability, the open to imagination concept is available with Sri Ganesha. So if you put in all these things together for today's youth, keeping a goal, going ahead to achieve it, because even so many people are saying, do smart work. Ganesha is all about smart work. And the third thing, to be flexible and making life a celebration. Because before winding up, he has the modaka, something that gives you a lot of happiness. And interestingly, the stuffing inside the modaka, which is made of coconut and jaggery, it is known as Purna. Purna means that which is complete. So that completeness is within that boiled rice cake. So similarly, the happiness is all within us, within this rice cake that just needs to be searched for. And
we are the modakam.
Yeah.
Shankarji.
So to come to the point of resonating with the current generation or the modern generation, see, everything has to be presented in the manner that resonates with the people that you wish to communicate with. So if you're talking to a Frenchman, you should talk in French. There's no point you talking in Hindi or in English. So similarly, in today's world, people have a very strong affinity to science. So if you cannot provide something from a scientific background, you've already lost half the battle. So I'll just give one very small story of Ganesha, and I'll give you the scientific background for it. So there's one story in which Ganesha overeats, and the moon laughs at him. The moon god laughs at him. So Ganesha gets very angry and he curses him, saying that you lose your luster. So immediately he becomes dark. So this is a story. Now, in Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, a child would have just listened to it and just gone on with their life. A student would have gone deeper into it to understand what it means. In today's world, if I just tell that story and tell you go read the Vedas to understand what, nobody's going to do it. So, what is the science behind it? What does it signify? It again, like I said, every attribute or any story, it points to some event. So this event is that time in the evolution of the earth when the moon was a geostationary object. It signifies, that story signifies that time in the timeline when some asteroid slammed into the moon, thereby giving it the waxing and waning movement. So a moon which was constantly shining, because of that movement it got around the earth, became a waxing and waning moon. Therefore, you had a Paurnami and you had a Amavas. So the story now connects with the geological event. So all our stories for the current generation will have to be connected either with a geological event or an evolutionary event or some other such social event. Like why Rama? Rama was special because Rama is the first human in the evolution of man to decide and show that one wife is enough. Prior to him and his own father, they had harems. So he showed that it is enough. All the other emotional and other reasons, one can sit and make a PhD on it. But basically the point is that's why it's called Maryada Purushottam, for various other attributes also. But this is the main stellar thing when you read the evolutionary process. Because prior to him was Parashurama. Now Parashurama was the caveman, angry for everything. So that is again the evolutionary process. So when you look at all these stories and you tie them up either with the evolutionary process or with a social process or with a geological event, then the current generation will be interested in knowing what this is all about. So the abstract, the sankalpa, the power of achieving what you want using these mantras, and of course, the scientific reasoning behind it, or the alluding to some theoretical concepts. These will help retain the interest.
So the stories, yes, beautifully said. And the stories of the Sanatan carry so many different meanings and so many different dimensions within the same story. There are the attributes of the divine, which will be for those who want to worship an object. There will be the attributes of the divine for those who want to worship its characteristics or character or personality. There will be the attributes of the divine for those who want to imbibe those same goodnesses within them. There would be attributes of weaknesses for those who want to know what not to do. And there would be scientific attributes for us to connect it to scientific events, geological events, astronomical events. So events of physics and chemistry, the laws of motion, all of those things will be present. It's a very, it is a situation created by very smart minds, a combination of many minds who have brought together various forms of science and the metaphysics and the philosophy and the ritualistic, everything together into each one of the ancient Sanatan stories. This was a very beautiful discussion, an eye-opener for me, and I guess for all of us. When we talk, we are all the seekers. None of us will claim to be super experts in anything. We are seekers. We talk, we discuss, This is the revival of the discourse that created the Sanatan in the first place. There is not one single person or prophet who gets everything from some God and gives it to us to gulp it down. There is all of us talking about it and creating the knowledge, the bank of knowledge. The next time we'll come with a next topic, and till then, namaskar, vanakkam, pranam.